February 26th, 2026, 1433 local time. The Central Persian Gulf. The USS Chafee is being torn apart, not by a single missile, by a swarm. 8 Iranian drones, Shahed 1, 3.6 loitering munitions, have struck the destroyer in a 47-second window. The impacts are distributed across the ship's length, each one adding to the cumulative devastation. The bridge is destroyed. The helicopter hangar is burning. The aft superstructure has collapsed. Fire is spreading through the interior passageways. 9 American sailors are dead. 23 more are wounded, and the ship is still taking hits. I'm your host at U.S. Defense Review, where we analyze the military operations that define global security. The January 8th attack was the most devastating drone swarm assault of the entire Gulf confrontation. 8 weapons, 47 seconds. A destroyer reduced from combat ready to survival mode in under a minute. The American response began 18 minutes later, and it wouldn't stop until the facility that had launched those drones was a smoking crater. Let's understand what the Chafee faced. Drone swarms are the nightmare scenario for naval air defense. Traditional missiles come 1 or 2 at a time, giving defenders multiple opportunities to intercept. Drones can come in dozens, overwhelming defensive systems through sheer numbers. The Shahed 136 is perfectly designed for swarm attacks. Cheap, approximately $20,000 per unit. Simple, a straight wing airframe with a basic guidance system. Effective, 40 kilograms of explosive in the nose, enough to cause serious damage to anything it hits. Iran had been using Shaheds throughout the Gulf confrontation. American ships had intercepted dozens. The Phalanx CYWS was effective against them. Jamming could sometimes defeat their guidance, but previous attacks had involved 1, 2, maybe 3 drones at once. The defensive systems could handle those numbers. January 8th was different. At 1431, a forward deployment base on Iran's Lavan Island launched 8 Shaheds in rapid succession. The drones climbed to 300 meters altitude and formed into a loose swarm, approaching the USS Chafee from the northeast at 180 kilometers per hour. The Chafee's radar detected the swarm at 1432.17. 8 contacts, slow-moving, low altitude, approaching in a dispersed formation that would prevent a single defensive weapon from engaging multiple targets. 8 drones inbound, the radar operator announced. Bearing 043, range 8 nautical miles, altitude 1,000 feet. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Chen, the tactical action officer, processed the threat instantly. 8 drones, 2 Phalanx mounts. The math was ugly. Both CIWS to automatic, weapons free, rolling airframe launchers to standby, all topside personnel below decks immediately. The Phalanx mounts began tracking. Each system could engage 1 target at a time, requiring several seconds per engagement to track, fire, assess, and retarget. 8 drones at 180 kilometers per hour would reach the ship in approximately 90 seconds. Each Phalanx could theoretically engage 3 to 4 drones in that window. Theoretically. At 1432.41, the starboard Phalanx engaged the first drone. The 20mm rounds shredded the Shahed at 2,500 meters range. Kill. At 1432.47, the port Phalanx engaged a second drone. Miss. The Shahed had executed a minor course adjustment at the critical moment. The rounds passed behind it. At 1432.49, the port Phalanx re-engaged. Kill. At 1432.53, the starboard Phalanx engaged a third drone. Kill. 3 down, 5 remaining. Range closing rapidly. At 1432.58, both Phalanx systems engaged simultaneously. The starboard mount killed its target. The port mount missed, another course adjustment. Another near miss. 4 down, 4 remaining. Range, 800 meters. The rolling airframe missiles launched at 1433.01. 2 missiles streaking toward 2 drones. 1 ram hit. 1 ram missed. The drone was too close for the missile to complete its guidance solution. 5 down, 3 remaining. Range, 300 meters. At 1433.04, the first surviving Shahed struck the USS Chafee. The drone hit the bridge windows at 180 kilometers per hour. The 40-kilogram warhead detonated on impact. The bridge was destroyed instantly. The officer of the deck, the helmsman, the quartermaster, 2 lookouts, all killed. The ship lost steering control. At 14:33:07, the second surviving Shahed struck. This one hit the helicopter hangar. The MH-60R Seahawk inside, fully fueled, loaded with torpedoes, exploded. The blast killed the flight deck crew preparing the aircraft. At 14:33:11, the third surviving Shahed struck. It hit the aft superstructure, penetrating the skin of the ship and detonating in an interior passageway. Fire spread instantly. 3 hits in 7 seconds. 9 dead. The ship's combat capability devastated. Captain William Morrison was in the CIC when the drone struck. The impacts threw him against a console, bruising his ribs. He ignored the pain. Damage report now. The answers came in fragments, literally and figuratively. Bridge, destroyed. 5 KIA confirmed. Helicopter hangar, destroyed, burning. 3 KIA confirmed. Helicopter lost. Aft superstructure, penetrated, fire spreading. 1 KIA confirmed. Propulsion, operational but steering compromised. The bridge controls were destroyed. Weapons, forward systems operational, aft phalanx damaged. Radar, operational. Communications, damaged but functional. The Chafee was hurt badly, but she was still floating, still fighting, and Captain Morrison was furious. "Where did those drones come from?" he demanded. The radar operator had the answer. "Sir, we tracked the launch bearing. Lavin Island, IRGC facility on the southeastern coast. Range approximately 45 kilometers. Lavin Island." Morrison knew it. A small island in the central Gulf, used as a forward operating base for IRGC naval and drone operations. Previous strikes had damaged facilities there. Apparently, the Iranians had rebuilt. At 14:35, Captain Morrison made his decision. "Weapons, target Lavin Island drone facility. Everything we have, fire immediately." The weapons officer hesitated. "Captain, our Tomahawk targeting data for Lavin may be outdated. The Iranians have been relocating. I don't care if we hit the right building. I care that we hit that island. Fire." At 14:36:14, the first Tomahawk launched from the Chafee's forward VLS cells. The ship was burning. Her steering was compromised. Her crew was treating mass casualties. And she was launching missiles at the enemy. At 14:36:18, the second Tomahawk launched. Then the third. Then the fourth, fifth, sixth. 6 missiles. Everything the Chafee had in ready-to-fire condition. Target, Lavin Island drone facility. Morrison's transmission reached 5th Fleet at 14:38. 5th Fleet, Chafee. We are hit by drone swarm. 9 KIA, 23 wounded. Ship heavily damaged, but combat effective. I have initiated counterstrike on Lavin Island. Request expanded strike package. This facility needs to be eliminated permanently. Vice Admiral Catherine Santos had been monitoring the engagement. She had watched 8 drones overwhelm a destroyer's defenses. She had watched 9 Americans die. And she had been preparing for exactly this moment. Drone swarms were the threat everyone feared. The Iranians had proven they could deploy them effectively. The response needed to ensure they couldn't deploy them again. At 14:41, Santos authorized Operation Swarm Killer. The target list was the most extensive drone-focused strike of the war. Lavin Island forward base. Complete destruction. 3 additional suspected drone storage facilities along the coast. The drone production facility at Isfahan. The drone command center at Semnan. 6 targets. Comprehensive elimination of Iran's Shahed capability. The assets responded within minutes. The cruiser USS Monterey launched 16 Tomahawks at 14:43. Targets, Lavin Island, and 2 coastal storage facilities. The destroyer, USS Howard, added 8 more at 14:45. Target, the 3rd storage facility. The submarine, USS Louisiana, launched 12 at 14:47. Target, the Isfahan production facility. 2 B-2 Spirit bombers, already airborne on contingency patrol, diverted toward the Semnan command center. they carried 32 JDAMs between them. And for good measure, 4 FA-18E Super Hornets launched from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. Their mission: ensure Layvan Island was completely destroyed. At 14:51, 18 minutes after the first drone struck the Chafee, the first American weapons arrived. Layvan Island died first. The Chafee's 6 Tomahawks struck the drone facility in a tight pattern. The launch pads, the storage bunkers, the command post. Secondary explosions confirmed the presence of additional Shaheds, drones that would never fly. The Monterey's missiles arrived 90 seconds later. 16 more Tomahawks saturating the island. Fuel storage, ammunition bunkers, barracks. The IRGC personnel who had launched the attack were killed or buried. The Super Hornets arrived at 15:03. Their JDAMs finished what the Tomahawks started. When they departed, Layvan Island's military infrastructure had ceased to exist. The coastal storage facilities received their strikes between 15:02 and 15:08. All 3 were confirmed destroyed. Satellite imagery later showed dozens of Shahed airframes in the wreckage, an entire inventory eliminated. The Isfahan production facility was hit at 15:34. This was the heart of Iran's drone program, the factory where Shaheds were manufactured, tested, and prepared for deployment. The facility produced an estimated 15 to 20 drones per week. It had supplied not only Iranian forces, but also proxies throughout the region. 12 Tomahawks struck the factory complex in coordinated waves. Production lines were destroyed. Assembly areas collapsed. Testing facilities were obliterated. The drones that had been in production, estimates suggested 40 to 60 partially completed units, were destroyed, along with the equipment that built them. At 15:51, the B-2s reached Semnan. The drone command center was the brain of Iran's UAV operations. This facility coordinated drone strikes across the Gulf, managed targeting data, and directed swarm attacks like the one that had devastated the Chafee. 32 2,000-pound JDAMs fell on the complex in a precisely timed sequence. The facility was hardened, underground bunkers, reinforced construction. The JDAMs penetrated anyway. When the bombs stopped falling, the command center was a crater. The officers who had directed the Chafee attack were dead. At 16:05, Operation Swarm Killer was complete. Total damage assessment: Layvan Island Forward Base, destroyed. 3 coastal storage facilities, destroyed. Isfahan production facility, destroyed. Semnan Command Center, destroyed. Estimated drone inventory, destroyed. 200 plus Shaheds. Estimated personnel casualties, 300 to 400. Production capability, eliminated for minimum 18 months. Command capability, eliminated. Iran's Shahed program, one of their most successful military developments, exported worldwide, feared by adversaries across the Middle East, was crippled. The USS Chafee, meanwhile, was fighting for survival. The fires were spreading. Damage control teams were struggling to contain blazes in multiple compartments simultaneously. The steering was being jury-rigged from an emergency station in the after part of the ship. By 1700, the fires were contained, but not extinguished. The ship was making 8 knots toward Bahrain, steering manually from the secondary con. By 2000, the fires were out. The ship was stable. The transit to Bahrain took 18 hours. The crew worked continuously the entire time, treating wounded, shoring damaged bulkheads, maintaining propulsion in a ship that had lost its normal control systems. Final casualty count: 9 dead, 23 wounded. The highest single engagement death toll from drone attack in the Gulf confrontation. The repair assessment was brutal. New bridge, new helicopter hangar, structural repairs throughout the aft section. 8 months in dry dock. But the ship would sail again. Captain Morrison received the Navy Cross. His decision to launch counterstrikes while his ship was burning, while his crew was dying, had triggered the response that destroyed Iran's drone capability. The 9 sailors who died were buried with full military honors. Their names joined the long list of Americans killed in the Gulf confrontation. The drone swarm threat didn't disappear entirely. Other nations produced similar weapons. Iran would eventually rebuild their capability, but the January 8th response bought time. It destroyed the immediate threat. It killed the personnel who knew how to coordinate swarm attacks. 18 minutes from drone impact to the beginning of comprehensive destruction. That's the American response to new threats. Fast, overwhelming, permanent, or as permanent as warfare allows. The Chafee took heavy damage. 9 sailors paid with their lives. The Iranian drone program paid with its existence. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.